My last conversation was with Karnit Gulwasser, the wife of one of the two Israeli abducted soldiers. You will recall, Mr. President, that the cause of the war last summer was the abduction of two Israeli soldiers, Goldwasser and Regev. And I have to say with deep regret, personally, because I have made very considerable efforts in this regard, that more than 13 months after their abduction, we still cannot establish proof of life.
Mr. Williams, how close are you with Mr. De Soto's point of view when he left? Now that you are leaving your offices, how do you assess Mr. De Soto came to the conclusion that because of the bias which is prevailing in here and because of the influence of the United States and Israel on this organization, this Middle East conflict has not been able to be resolved?
Well, Mr. De Soto made many points. He seemed to have had a lot of time to write that very detailed memo. I think it's striking that we've just had a debate at the Security Council where people from very different political backgrounds and countries thought that there was considerable hope and that the UN was playing a very substantial role.
Williams, you mentioned that the cause of the war last summer was because of the abduction of the Israeli two soldiers. However, the Israelis themselves admitted that 4 months earlier they were preparing for a war against Lebanon.
Well, countries are always making military preparations. That is the nature of defense planning. I have seen no evidence that Israel was ready to go for war, and some, not myself personally, but some would argue that the difficulties that Israeli forces had in the very early period of that conflict indicate that the Israelis weren't fully prepared for war. So I think you're wrong, and I think I'm correct. I think the cause of that war was the abduction of two soldiers, taken in an armed incident and taken across an international border.
Can you cite another incident where a country went into war because of two soldiers?
Oh, there are many incidents in history. I mean, I like to consider myself a historian, but I think it's a very important point.
Can you give an update on the Shabbat farms, the actual delineation, and what you think is going to happen as you're leaving?
I mean,